A man sits across from you. He's smiling. He says all the right things. He says, "Trust me." And something in you, quiet, almost embarrassing, says, "Don't." You ignore it. You've been trained to. Be polite. Don't judge. Give people the benefit of the doubt. 6 months later, you find out that quiet voice was right the whole time. Here's what nobody tells you. You were never guessing. You read him. In the first 4 seconds, before he even finished his sentence, your brain had already picked up a dozen signals, and then your good manners talked you out of every single one. Because here's the strange truth about human beings. We are terrible liars. We leak. Every person you meet is broadcasting what they actually feel, with their hands, their feet, their breath, the half-second flicker across their face before the mask slides back into place. The words are the smallest, most rehearsed, least honest part of the whole message, and most people spend their entire lives listening only to the words. By the end of this, you won't. I'm going to show you the exact places the truth leaks out of everyone you'll ever meet, through the eyes of the people who read humans for a living. Spoxing, interrogators, the scientists who slowed the human face down to a 40th of a second. And I'm warning you now, once you see it, you can never unsee it. Think about how much of your life gets decided in rooms full of people you cannot read. The interview where you couldn't tell they'd already said no. The negotiation where you took the first offer because you had no idea they were desperate. The friend who said, "I'm fine," and you believed it right up until they weren't. We are the only creature on Earth that has to guess what the others are thinking. And we're astonishingly bad at it. Not because we lack the equipment, but because nobody ever taught us to use it. You were handed the most sophisticated lie detector in the known universe, wired straight into your gut, and then told to be quiet and stop staring. So you walk through life half blind. You get read by salesmen, by manipulators, by anyone who bothered to learn this, and you never once read back. That ends today. But we have to start somewhere strange, because the first story I'm going to tell you isn't about catching a liar. It's about how the whole world watched an innocent girl and swore they saw a killer. Italy, 2007. A young woman named Amanda Knox is the prime suspect in her roommate's murder. And here is what convicts her in the eyes of the public, long before any evidence: her behavior. She doesn't cry the way people think she should. Outside the house where her roommate was killed, she's seen kissing her boyfriend. At the police station, witnesses say she did a cartwheel. The headlines write themselves: cold, strange, guilty, decreased. A prosecutor calls her a she-devil. She spends nearly 4 years in prison. And then she's exonerated. The real killer's DNA was all over the scene. It was never her. So how did an entire country look at an innocent person and see a monster? Here's the answer, and it's the first key to reading anyone. They had no idea how Amanda Knox normally behaves. They didn't know that some people go numb in a crisis. They didn't know her baseline, so they filled the gap with their own expectation of how a grieving person should look. And when she didn't match the script in their head, they called it guilt. That is the mistake almost every human makes every single day. They read a signal all by itself, a bead of sweat, a nervous laugh, arms crossed, and slap a meaning on it from some list they saw online. Crossed arms means defensive. Touching your nose means lying. Garbage, all of it, because there is no universal dictionary of gestures. There is only one question that matters. What is normal for this person? The professionals call it the baseline. How does this specific human sit, speak, and breathe when nothing is wrong? You watch. You learn they're normal. And then you stop hunting for gestures and start hunting for the moment they break their own normal. The quiet man who suddenly won't stop talking. The steady voice that climbs half an octave on one specific question. You're not reading the gesture, you're reading the change. So here's your first victory, and you're already ahead of the crowd that jailed Amanda Knox. Never again will you read a single signal on its own. You read the deviation, or you read nothing. But a baseline only tells you when to look. It doesn't tell you where. And the fastest place the truth escapes is the one place everybody's already staring and still manages to miss. In the 1960s, a psychologist named Paul Ekman is handed a piece of film that will haunt him. It's footage of a psychiatric patient. He calls her Mary. Mary is smiling. She's calm. She tells her doctors she feels much better, and she asks for a weekend pass to go home. She seems completely fine. She was lying. Mary had a plan to end her life the moment she got out. She's caught, and she later admits the truth. So Ekman takes that film, and he does something almost no one had done before. He slows it down, frame by frame by frame. And there, buried in the middle of that calm, reassuring smile, lasting less than a 15th of a second, is a flash of pure anguish. A look of despair so fast that every doctor in the room had missed it in real time. Ekman had just found the crack in the mask. He named it the microexpression. Here's what he proved. We spend our whole lives managing our faces, smile at the boss's joke, look calm at the funeral. But when a real emotion fires, it hits the face first, in a flicker, before the socially approved expression can slide over the top. And you have caught thousands of these flickers in your life. You've felt that half second or someone's congratulations went cold. You just dismissed it because your conscious mind is too slow and too polite to trust what it saw. Remember those 4 seconds at the start? The dozen signals your brain caught before you talked yourself out of them? This is a lot of what it was seeing. The flickers. Now here's the rule that will serve you for the rest of your life. When a person's words and their face disagree, believe the face. Believe the body. Every time. The mouth is the most rehearsed part of a person. The face never got the script. And there's one flicker so common you'll start seeing it today. The fake smile. A century before Ekman, a French doctor named Duchenne figured out that a real smile uses a muscle you cannot consciously control, the one that crinkles the corners of your eyes. So a genuine smile reaches the eyes. A fake one is all mouth, and it usually arrives a beat too late, like it had to be ordered in from the back. Congratulations. You now know something 99% of people never notice. From this moment on, you will never watch a fake smile the same way again. Sorry in advance. Birthday parties are ruined. But even the face can be trained. The hardest people to read have practiced in the mirror. So the real professionals learn to stop watching the face altogether and to watch the one part of the body that has never, in the entire history of our species, learned how to lie. For 25 years, a man named Joe Navarro caught spies for the FBI. Not by beating confessions out of anyone. Most spies never confess. Navarro caught them by watching their bodies betray them in 1,000 tiny ways they didn't know they were sending. And after a career of it, he said something that sounds absurd until you understand it. The most honest part of the human body is the feet. Think about it. When you want to control how you look, where does your attention go? Your face, your posture. You straighten up, you fix your expression. Nobody thinks about their feet. And that's exactly why they tell the truth. They're the furthest thing from your conscious mind, and evolution wired them for one ancient job long before we could speak. Move me toward what I want and away from what I fear. So Navarro watched the feet. And here's what you can watch for, starting in your very next conversation. In a group, a person's feet point toward whoever they're actually engaged with, even while their face is turned politely toward you. And if you're talking to someone and their face stays, but their feet have quietly rotated toward the exit, the conversation is already over in their mind. They just haven't told their mouth yet. You just read a decision the other person hadn't even consciously made. That's the power we're building here. The hands leak too. Watch for what Navarro calls pacifiers. The moment a hand drifts up to rub the neck, the back of the head, the little dip at the base of the throat. We do these to soothe ourselves the instant stress spikes. A calm person's hands are still. So when you ask a simple question and suddenly their hand floats to their neck, you didn't ask a simple question. You hit something. But, and this is the part that separates you from every amateur who's about to go accuse their friends of lying, no single signal is a verdict. The neck touch isn't a lie. The feet toward the door aren't a crime. They are questions, not answers. One tell is just noise. It's the cluster, 3, 4 signals spiking together, all breaking the baseline at the same moment, on the same topic. That's when the truth is screaming at you. So now you can read the face and the body. But the professionals found something stranger. They found that even when a person controls their face, freezes their feet, and stills their hands, the truth crawls out through their words. Not what they say, the shape of how they say it. Here's a discovery that should genuinely unsettle you. A researcher named James Pennebaker spent years feeding people's words into computers. Not the big, dramatic words, the tiny ones. I, we, he, the, a. The words you never notice yourself saying. And he found something eerie. Those invisible words give away what the big words are trying to hide. When people lie, their language quietly changes, and they have no idea it's happening. The first change is distance. When someone is uncomfortable with the truth, their words back away from it. That woman, instead of my wife. The vehicle, instead of my car. The word I starts to disappear, because deep down, the liar doesn't want to attach themselves to the story. Pennebaker found it in the data again and again. Deception uses fewer I words. The sentence physically distances itself from the lie. The second change is over-explanation. Truth is lazy. It doesn't feel any need to convince you. Someone telling the truth says, I was home. Someone building a story hands you the weather, the traffic, 3 details nobody asked for. Because they're not remembering, they're constructing, and they want the scaffolding to look solid. So ask yourself, next time an answer comes back wrapped in far too much architecture, who is all this decoration for? And this one is chilling. FBI researchers who study recordings of 911 calls found that certain word patterns in how a person reports an emergency can flag that the caller isn't the witness, they're the perpetrator. The truth was hiding in their grammar while they pretended to cry. Then there's the pause in the wrong place. Not the honest pause of someone thinking, the frozen half beat right before an answer that should have been instant. Ask a person their own child's name, 0 seconds. Ask them where they were last night, and if the truth is simple, that should be 0 seconds too. When a simple question buys a suspicious pause, the baseline just cracked, this time in your ears. And here's the reframe that ties this whole window together. You are not listening for lies. You're listening for effort. Truth is effortless. It's just remembered. Lies take work, and work always leaks, whether it escapes through the feet, the hands, or the shape of a sentence. You've now got 4 windows, which means there's only one myth left standing between you and reading almost anyone, and it's the one you're most sure is true. Liars won't look you in the eye. You've heard it your whole life. It's wrong, and it might be the most dangerous thing you believe about people. A deception researcher named Aldert Vrij spent decades testing it. Real studies, thousands of liars. And the link between lying and looking away, it basically doesn't exist. Worse, the practiced liar knows you're checking, so they lock onto your eyes and hold, a beat too long, too deliberate, performing honesty right at your face. Meanwhile, the nervous, honest person glances away to gather a thought and gets branded a liar for it. The myth doesn't catch liars, it protects them. So forget eye contact as a lie detector. What the eyes actually give you is attention. Where a person looks is where their mind is. Watch what their gaze does the instant you drop a specific name, a number, a place. The flick toward the door. The glance at their phone the second one certain person comes up. People aim their eyes at what they want and away from what they fear, and they've no idea they're doing it. And this is the master move, the one interrogators and poker champions quietly live by. You do not read a person at rest. Anyone can look calm at rest. You read them in the instant after you introduce a stimulus you chose. You say the number, you drop the name, you make the offer. And then you go silent, and you watch the ripple, the swallow, the late smile, the hand to the neck. You're not watching them. You're watching them react to something you controlled. Because silence is the most underused tool in reading people. A question creates pressure, and silence keeps it there. The amateur asks, then rushes to fill the gap. The reader asks, then waits, and lets the other person leak into the quiet. That's all 6. The baseline, the half-second crack, the honest feet, the shape of the words, the truth in attention, and the reaction to the stimulus you choose. 6 windows into anyone you'll ever meet. Which is exactly where I have to stop you. Because there's one more thing, and it's the part that decides whether this gift makes you powerful or makes you cold. Because here's what nobody selling you body language secrets will ever admit. The number one thing standing between you and reading another person accurately is you. Go back to Amanda Knox for a second. The people who read her as guilty weren't seeing her. They were seeing their own idea of how an innocent person behaves. And that is what every one of us does. You'll read confidence as arrogance, because arrogance is what you're afraid of. You'll read kindness as manipulation, because someone once used kindness to hurt you. Your read of a person's baseline is the cleanest lens you own, but your own fear is the smudge smeared across it. The greatest readers on earth read themselves first. They know their own tells, their own hungers, so they can tell a real signal from a ghost rising out of their own past. And there's a second truth, and it cuts the other way. Everything I just taught you to see in other people, the feet, the flicker, the sentence that backs away, you are broadcasting all of it too, right now, to anyone who ever bothered to learn this. You have been readable your entire life. The only question is whether you finally know it. Now here's the line that separates a decent person from a cold one. You can use this to catch, or you can use it to care. The exact same skill that lets a con artist find your soft spot is the skill that lets you notice your friend is drowning behind the words, "I'm fine." Detecting lies is the beginner's toy. The real power is empathy with its eyes open, actually seeing the human in front of you, the fear under the bravado, the hope under the caution, the quiet ask hidden inside the small talk. Most people go their whole lives and are never once truly seen. Be the person who sees. So before you close this, do one thing. Today, in your very next real conversation. Don't try to use all 6 windows at once. You'll trip over your own feet. Just do this. Find their baseline. 2 minutes of noticing how this person is when nothing's at stake. Their resting hands, their easy voice. And then, once, ask something that matters a little. Go quiet and watch for the single moment they leave their normal. One person, one baseline, one deviation. That's the whole skill in miniature. And once you feel it work, it does not switch off. And when you catch one, a real one, where the body said what the mouth wouldn't, tell me in the comments. Describe the tell, never the person. I read every one, and the best ones I break down in the next video. Now let me leave you with this. Tomorrow, someone is going to lie to you. Maybe a small one. They won't even know they're giving themselves away. But you will. Not because you became more suspicious, because you finally learned to observe. Remember the 4 seconds. The truth was never hiding from you. It was in the feet pointed at the door, in the smile that came a beat too late, in the pause before the answer, and the I that quietly disappeared. It has been speaking to you your entire life. You were just never taught the language. Most people spend their whole lives listening to words. From today, you listen to people. And those are two very different things. Power has always belonged to the few who understood it. Now you're one of them. Read carefully, because the truth has been speaking to you all along.